Hello and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God. My name is Lori Michelle, and I was awakened in 2009 to the voice of our Creator, God Himself. And He said, go get pen and paper and start writing this down. And I listened. And here I am, 8+ years later, broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever social media platform I can put these videos on, I'm doing it, to share His voice and His wisdom when we need Him desperately. Of course, we always need God, but we need His guidance, and I'm blessed to hear His voice in plain English. I'm here broadcasting from Israel, where I live, and my friend Anne-Marie is in Chicago. Hi, Anne-Marie. And Anne-Marie is my questioner. She's not a questionnaire, she's a questioner, and she asks very good, pointed questions to get deeper into topics that need to be spoken about. And tonight's topic is about terrorism, and the name of the program is What Will End the Terrorism? Who is to blame? And I posted a picture on Facebook and LinkedIn, and this is what the picture said, and it says, we'll never kill all the terrorists, end the terror by removing it from ourselves. The reason I said that is, it sounds very upsetting. We'll never kill all the terrorists, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to the bottom of the terrorism and naming it. In other words, it's the Islamic fundamentalists that are causing all our problems, and when we kill all of them, we'll have peace on earth. And the truth of the matter is that we will never kill all the terrorists, because the cause of terrorism is something that every human being chooses every day, every minute of every day, all over the world. So while we might kill a terrorist, another one is being born as we speak. The terrorism is within us, and we need to wake up and recognize the source of terrorism and remove that inclination from ourselves so that we can heal the world. And with that, I'll turn over the conversation to you, Anne-Marie, to ask me questions and go deeper into the topic.
I want to hear a little bit more about removing the terror from within ourselves, because I think the vast majority of us would say, I have absolutely no inclination for terror within myself. So how do I remove it when it's not even there?
Well, the problem is exactly what you said, that people around the world do not have the understanding and the information about what that inclination is, and that inclination exists all over the world within every person. And I'm not saying something disparaging about you, Anne-Marie, or any person. What I'm talking about is the existence of evil in our world, the evil inclination, which was placed here quite on purpose by God Himself. You see, if we don't understand how we manifest in this world, that we are physical people with a soul that comes from a creator, God Himself, and that He has created our world with conditions that we need to become aware of and we need to become knowledgeable about so that we can live a beautiful life and choose correctly in every moment. And much of the world does not even recognize the existence of our omnipotent creator. A lot of the world is secular, atheist, agnostic at best, and they do not recognize that we have a true creator, God, a king of the universe. And unless and until we understand who God is and what His rules are, and why the terror is happening, we are never going to end terrorism. It's just going to keep happening. As they say, history will repeat itself again and again.
If someone in the secular world, or an atheist does not accept that there is a God, what difference does it make if they're not out there committing acts of terror? If they're living a good life, why does it matter?
Because every choice that we make in every minute, Anne Marie, matters. We are energy. What we truly are, whether you're atheist or not, the truth is something that everybody has to wake up to. That we do come from the greatest spirit in the universe, God, Hashem, God. He is energy. He's the largest energy in all the universe. And we are a microcosm of him. He created us. Now, I don't want to go off into the topic of why he created us. I'm just going to talk about that we were created from his energy, and we are not even a speck of him, but we are like him. And he placed us in a vessel, a body. In every minute of every day, we have to choose. Our life here on earth is a test. And in every minute, we're choosing between good and evil. And when you choose just a little bit of evil that looks like it's harmless, well, so what? You know, I'm eating an extra piece of cake or I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm not hurting you, Anna Marie, but you are. Every single choice that's not good and of God is an energy, and it attaches not only to our spirit and our body, but it manifests and vibrates in a negative way around the world. So now multiply that by 7.5 billion people choosing a negative energy. And sometimes it's not so benign. It's a bigger negative energy. And it surrounds our earth, and it multiplies, and it affects everyone. And it manifests in disease and in mental illness, and it's contagious. So it's very dangerous, and I don't know how to describe it in simple enough terms that are powerful enough that people listening to this program, and I hope there are many, wake up and understand that every single choice you make has power, and we must learn how to choose correctly in every moment.
You said in your intro that there are measures that we must all begin to take to stop future terrorists from being born. My question is, what are those measures?
The measures are to recognize that the future terrorists might be ourselves. Now that's maybe an impossible reach for most people right now, that you could never consider yourself a terrorist. But I posted a short video about Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht was the beginning of the Holocaust in Germany. And the people who perpetrated Kristallnacht, I'll read it again. It means the night of broken glass. And it was one definitive moment where the German people, good Christian, everyday people like you, Anna Marie, you're a good Christian, were so angry and so brainwashed to hate the Jews that they went out that evening and broke the windows of businesses, Jewish businesses, and they plundered their homes and they killed people right in the street. And they rounded up 30,000 Jewish men and sent them to concentration camps. And we all know what the outcome was of the Holocaust. Millions of Jews died in the Holocaust. Hashem, God, has told me over 7 million, which is more than 1 million more than the world recognizes that the number of Jewish people that perished in the Holocaust. He included in that number Jews who don't even realize and know today that they're Jews. They went into hiding, they raised their children as Christians and hid, And there are many, many Jews, Jewish lives, that are existing in this world that don't know that they're Jewish. And Hashem God says that as if a Jew is not a practicing Jew, meaning observing Torah, it's a death to a Jew in this world. The reason I wanted to bring up Kristallnacht, you said, well, so what? I'm not a terrorist. I'm rephrasing your question. Say again what you just said.
What are some measures that we can take to stop future terrorists from being born? And you said that we all have evil within us because look what happened in Germany. Yet I still think it was a minority of German citizens who participated in Kristallnacht. I think the majority of German citizens didn't.
I just heard Hashem say not so. He said every one of them were guilty. When you ignored what happened, when you saw that your Jewish neighbors suddenly disappeared and did nothing, you were an accomplice to murder. That's Hashem's words, not mine. You are accountable. Everyone was accountable. And I saw online there were discussions by the Holocaust Museum that there was a book written about the whole dynamic of the Holocaust and how ordinary people turned into murderers. And how could this happen? And there was a book written called Ordinary Men, where they recruited men in their 40s, around in their 40s, average men, and they became some of the worst abusers, murderers, who abused Jews and killed them. And even when they were told, you don't have to do this anymore, you can go home, they said, no, we want to stay. And they murdered more. Incredible stories. And I'm candy coating it now. Some of the stories are so horrific that I don't even want to repeat what they did. Horrible. There were nurses, young 20-year-old girls recruited as Nazi nurses. And they went along with watching hundreds of thousands of Jews being mass murdered and did nothing. And the biggest answer that was given when they interviewed these Nazi nurses why they did nothing was they were worried about what their friends thought. They were worried about themselves. They didn't have compassion for other people, for these Jews. They were raised on anti-Semitism, but that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was they were more concerned about their own personal welfare than helping someone who was unjustly being murdered or discriminated against, to say the least.
Your original premise was we will never kill the last terrorist, and yet in World War II, we did stop the Nazi regime.
Temporarily, but did we stop it? And let me tell you, right before we came on this program, Anna Marie, to record this, I looked online just to see if there was a terrorist incident today, because every day we wake up and there's something new, right? Last weekend, you and I recorded a program, and unbeknownst to us, there was a murder going on, mass murder in Texas, in a church where a gunman entered a church and at point blank range murdered 26 people and hurt many more. A mass murder right while we were speaking. So I turned on my computer right before we got online, and I looked up the news, and look what I found. White Europe. 60,000 nationalists march on Poland's Independence Day. This was yesterday. Tens of thousands of nationalist demonstrators, marched through Warsaw at the weekend to mark Poland's Independence Day, throwing red smoke bombs and carrying banners with such slogans as "White Europe of Brotherly Nations." Police estimated 60,000 people took part in Saturday's event yesterday. in what experts say was one of the biggest gathering of far-right activists in Europe in recent years. Demonstrators with faces covered, now if they were proud, why were they covering their faces? Chanted "Pure Poland," "White Poland," and "Refugees get out." A banner hung over a bridge and read, "Pray for Islamic Holocaust."
Oh.
And it goes on and on. It gets worse from there. But you know, for Jews who are worried about the Islamic terrorists killing all the Jews, because that's what they're praying, you know, Iran calls for the death of all the Jews, right? So if any Jew has the audacity to say, well, I don't disagree with that. In the next sentence, where is it? Let me just look for it. Here it is. In the last paragraph that I printed out, not the end of this article, but it says, many carried the national white and red flag, while others held banners depicting a falanga, a far-right symbol dating to the 1930s. A demonstrator interviewed by state television TVP said he was on the march to remove Jewry from power. So, you know, my mother and father always taught me, two wrongs don't make a right. And that's a very kind way of saying evil begets evil. To pray for the Islamic Holocaust is unimaginable. I don't have words for how evil this was. And this was just yesterday.
How far away are we from a peaceful world?
He says many years, but it's going to require hard work, and we are about to enter into the war of Gog and Magog, which is World War III. We're already feeling the vibrations of it. It's happening now, but we're not in full-blown World War III. There will be a bloodletting, he says, like we have never seen in world history. And the reason he's allowing this to manifest is we're choosing it. Those people in Poland, they're choosing it. The Korean dictator, he's choosing it. Everyone is choosing it. And this is where I started the program. If you don't really understand the thoughts and the beliefs that you're choosing in every moment, you're choosing it and you don't recognize it. It's time to wake up and learn that we are spirit. We're surrounded by energy and ideas. They're not all coming from inside of us. And we need to choose what we think about every moment of every day and make sure that we're choosing God and goodness in every moment. Because evil disguises itself as a good idea. You agree with it? Well, Islam, of course. I sent you a video. I don't want to go on too long. I want you to ask questions. I apologize if I go on too long, but I sent you a video of a pastor, a Christian pastor, getting all heated and saying, I'm just going to say it like it is. It's all these, Islam is evil. And he's going on and he's getting red-faced, and his parishioners are cheering. And he's working them up into this angry, hate-filled frenzy. That's not the answer. The answer isn't to be like the terrorists who are doing the same thing.
What role do religious leaders have in combating terrorism and bringing about peace in this world?
Well, right now, very unfortunately, the leadership around the world is the blind leading the blind. They're doing a lot of the same things, and they're putting out fires. They're trying to keep the calm. They're trying to keep a level head, and they're trying to be egalitarian, or, think about every group, and very even-handed, and love to all. We love everyone and accepting of everyone. And there's truth to that, but there's also dangers in that. In other words, people are very angry with Donald Trump, with his immigration policies, and how he wants to toughen his position about who comes into America, who's allowed to enter,
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking he's fascist, he's a right-wing white supremacist, but some of that protection is required. So it's not cut and dry, Anna Marie. It's not open borders, we love everyone, or we hate everyone and we're going to kill all the Islamic terrorists and the Jews. And you go around the world and then you have to pick a new enemy. The only way to kill all the terrorists is to annihilate humanity, because the terrorism is born within every person. It's a wrong-headed, evil idea.
Then is there any way to eradicate it if it's within all of us?
Yes. Step number 1, there is one God for all of us. And he has rules. And much of the world doesn't recognize the one and his rules. We need to be educated. It's education and loving kindness that will heal our world, one person at a time. So who are you responsible for? Whoever's listening, and you, Anna Marie, you're responsible for Anna Marie first, because you can really only change Anna Marie. You can't change me. You can encourage me, you could try to reach me, you could try to give me information, but I have to be on board. But every person has to be awake enough and aware enough that we've got a real problem going on in this world. And we have to do the self-work to eradicate all the wrong-headed ideas that we're buying into. So it's one person at a time, but it has to be a movement of people who are doing what I'm explaining to you, learning every day, every minute of every day.
Where do we start?
Wake up. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, wake up. The problems aren't just the Islamic terrorists, like the one in New York City that rented a Home Depot truck and decided to drive into pedestrians and cyclists and kill them and maim them. That's not just the problem. There was, case in point, last Sunday, a madman going into a church with a gun with the same evil inclination that he was going to get revenge or do something to make himself be heard. And that's what the terrorists are doing. They're choosing evil. So the first step is to wake up and recognize that it's not a group or an ideology that's our enemy. It's evil that's our enemy. And we need to learn how to recognize evil when we see it.
And that's the part where we need to come together and be educated.
Well, we need to be educated, but it's a step-by-step process. It's first wake up and understand, like the Alcoholics Anonymous credo of the 12-step program. The first step is there's God in the world, a higher power. But see, the problem that we're experiencing right now is everybody's aligning with a different group. And the first wake-up call is not one group has it 100% correct. So what do you do? What do you do if everybody seems to have it wrong and we're the blind leading the blind? We need to reach for God and understand there's one Holy One. And he gave his rules to Moses. Now, if I sound like I'm proselytizing as a Jew, I'm not. I'm really not. It sounds that way. But if you discern and use your intellect, you will hear logic and reason. There are approximately 4 billion, perhaps more, people in the world. More than half of the population of the world believe in the existence of God's Torah. So I'm not making something up and deciding, well, the Torah is the truth. There are more than half of humanity that believes what I'm saying is the truth. And I hear him, and I'm sharing. I hear him in plain English, but I not only hear him, I hear the existence of evil. You see, the world is asleep, and they don't hear what I hear. I'm deaf. I'm physically deaf. I lost my hearing about 8.5 years ago. I went deaf, and I hear the invisible world that you can't hear. So I hear God, Hashem, the King, but I also hear evil, the evil inclination. And this is written about in his Torah. So we must learn that he's real, and he gave us written information and oral information, the oral Torah, also known as the Talmud. And he gave it to his children and said, here are my rules, follow my rules. The world now needs to understand he's real, he has rules. And so long as we break his rules, we are going to spin out of control, and we're going to have the Texas murders like that, Las Vegas, New York, Paris, Orlando, and on and on and on. And Chicago.
Yeah. When you say that half of the world believes in the existence of the Torah, do you mean that because Jews with the Torah and Christians with the Old Testament, and is there an aspect of the Torah in Muslim religion?
They believe in the Torah. They believe that Moses received God's Torah. I don't personally know Muslims. I've never read the Quran, but I speak to Hashem, and I have spoken to one Muslim once. Believe it or not, I took a cab ride because I don't know. And Hashem has assured me they believe in the Torah. So I drove in a cab ride with a Muslim up 2 minutes. And I spoke with him for about a half hour. And I was fascinated. He said, oh, yes, we believe in the Torah. So I was like, well, what are we fighting about? And in the Quran, a lot of the same things that are in the Torah are in the Quran. I'm not here to pull apart the written word because I don't study the written word. There are plenty of Torah scholars and Bible scholars and Muslims, all the scholars. But with all the scholars and all the book smart people poring over all the pages, we're going to war. We're not getting it right. And he's here, and he's speaking through me, and he's saying, wake up. You're all over the place. And it's not point the blame at the white people, or point the blame at the black people, or the Islamic people, or the Jewish people. It's point the blame this way, because this way, while it sounds horrible and people don't want to take blame, it gives you power. Your power is in yourself. And when you recognize the problem in yourself and you cure yourself, you have a shot at curing the world. But the answer is we all have to wake up and do this work. It's not going to work if just Lori's doing it and Anna Marie's doing it, but it's a start. And I hope that you'll all start listening and doing this work and listening every week. as I share more information. Please go to lauriemichelle.net. I'll help you. I'll answer your questions. This is only a half-hour program once a week, and I do post short Q&As, but I'm here to help you if you want to speak with me one-on-one. Please listen, learn, and work for peace. The time is now. We must do this work and bring peace in our world for an eternity, God willing, and He's willing. God bless you. Peace on earth.